everyone, John from ARTV. It's time to talk about Makes Me Sick, the 9th studio album by pop-punk band New Found Glory. 20 years of pop-punk. They've been a band since 1997. Here they are with their 9th studio album, and that's mind-blowing to me. I remember listening to these guys back whenever I first got into music in 2005, and I know that wasn't even the start of their career, but I started to get into some of their stuff like Sticks and Stones, and even their more mellow and just kind of chilled out record, which was much more mature, I feel like, lyrically, and one of their best projects to date that came out in 2006, Coming Home. Now, their last record, Resurrection, was released in 2014. I was a fan of it, but honestly, I was struggling whenever I tried to think back on melodies, and I was like, do I remember these songs or not? And the answer was no. Have I come back to them? Rarely. And that is not something that is really good for New Found Glory. And that's something that I can just kind of say about them in general. My relationship with New Found Glory, if they're playing, if someone's listening to them, or if they come up on shuffle, that's great. Am I going to seek them out? Not necessarily. That's not a slam on them at all. In fact, I quite like New Found Glory. I like their style. I like that they've mixed things up, keep things fresh, and I really enjoyed some of their songs from their last record whenever I went back and checked it out. I, of course, listened to Ascension as well, the deluxe edition of Resurrection, and I'm normally torn on those because they're just a cash grab from the record label. You release them a year after the original album comes out, or even 6 months afterwards, and you get fans to essentially buy the album again, instead of just releasing a deluxe edition to begin with. Well, there was a song that I really enjoyed on there. If you know anything about New Found Glory, you know that their guitarist, Chad Gilbert, is now married to Hayley Williams of Paramore, and they had her do guest vocals on a remix version of Vicious Love. And that was great. I love that. I'm a huge Paramore fan, and it's absolutely kind of crazy that they're both releasing albums, New Found Glory and Paramore, within 3 weeks of each other here in 2017. Anyways, how does this record sound? What's new this time around? Because they said that they wanted to add things into the mix that they really just hadn't done before, and I do admire the fact that they're challenging themselves. They added in some synthesizers. They added in more of a classic guitar tone, I could say. There's some solos that work their way in, and the lyrical content, while often very sarcastic, kind of put down, biting a lot of the time, and that's nothing new to New Found Glory, it's just that here it also kind of has something that's you can tell that they're in it for someone else. They're fighting for either someone or against someone, and I like the spark that they have lit within them. Now, that being said, not every song is by any means gold, and not just everything that puts a synthesizer on it do I love. That's not the case at all, even though Paramore pulled it off extremely well on their new single, Hard Times. Here, it's just something that I have to admire kind of from a distance. Some of these songs are okay, but some of them are absolutely brilliant, and I think the ones that stand the tallest are the ones that really push themselves lyrically and musically. I could say a big example of that would have to be the track Happy Being Miserable. That's one that does work in the new ideas. It gives you a taste of what's to come on this record and really does set the tone. And while not my favorite overall, you have to love watching the music video. You can hear kind of the shimmering keys that go along with the power chords on this one. And basically as he's singing, I don't want to know you, you're happy being miserable, you live in this bubble, that kind of sets the tone lyrically as well, because a lot of this record does seem to be calling people or else someone out. Another one of those moments, probably my overall favorite here, has to be Party on Apokolips. It definitely does have a big kind of anthem type vibe to it, but what's really at its core, it doesn't exactly care for the modern times, and you see Jordan, Chad, the rest of the band really getting fired up on their instruments, and especially on the vocals. And even though it is super catchy, and the refrain and the chorus and everything, you have to listen to what's being said here, and it's basically saying, if you put on a billboard that the world was ending, I'd be inclined to believe it. Everybody's so obsessed with themselves, taking photos, posting everything online, and I love that bands like this, I'm seeing this more and more, but I love the fact that these bands are just calling it out and saying, when is enough enough? Stop sharing everything and actually enjoy your life, live in the moment. They probably get sick of just seeing everybody film constantly at their concerts. Short and Sweet was definitely a left turn that I didn't really see coming. I thought this was going to be another one of those put down type tracks where they were really mad at someone, but really it turned out to be more of a love song, and it really worked. It's kind of sweet and charming in a weird way. The way that the guitars meet the drums and the deep bass groove, something that we fall into really all the way until the end of the record with The Cheapest Thrill. It's something where you see it kind of thumping, shaping these tracks up, and not to say that they go in a dancey direction by any means, it's just something that's a little bit more groovy, and I dig that. Now, like I was saying with that track Short and Sweet, it does seem to be an ode to someone, possibly Jordan's wife, or it could have been something where Chad chipped in on the songwriting as well, and it's something that comes through as a very, very heartfelt thing. Now, Aaron Sprinkle produced this record, and he's someone that I've kind of been hit or miss with over the years. I've seen him ruin some projects, but at the same time, I've seen him add a lot of flair to others and things that I really, really thoroughly enjoyed. He worked prominently with Anne Boleyn for quite a while, and if you know anything about me and Anne Boleyn, I'm on the fence. I sit somewhere right in the middle because I love about half of their records, or at least like about half of their records, and the other half, I think Sprinkle did a perfectly fine job of helping the band achieve the sound that they wanted to, helping them not go overboard. I think that's a lot of the reason why I like this record Makes Me Sick, because they fine-tune this sound, they play around with some more electronics, work on a different kind of guitar style and drum rhythm, and some deeper bass grooves that stand out more because it's not so fast-paced all the time that you can actually hear these bass grooves that it falls into, and it allows you a chance to actually see what's going on with Ian, what's he going to bring to the table on the bass guitar, and I like that. Everybody's getting their chance to shine. But still, it's newfound glory. A lot of these songs, you're gonna like them if you like the band, but if you're looking for something with a little bit more substance, I'm afraid it's not always there. Now, some of these tracks do start off with promise, like your jokes aren't funny. I like that. It starts off with a big guitar kind of in your face, but it loses momentum as I fail to really just see the importance of the lyrics, seeing that they've been stated many times, I feel like, in Newfound Glory's past. And that's something that they continue to harp on some of these tracks, like The Sound of Two Voices, or even Say It, Don't Spray It. These are tracks that quickly lose my interest. Barbed Wire is my least favorite song on the entire record. It's something that's very monotonous. It comes through with a kind of a cookie cutter feel, at least for Newfound Glory. Not compared to most music, but for Newfound Glory, I know they can do better. They do better on this record, and I'm going to talk about a couple of those other moments before we go from this review today. The biggest of those for me would have to probably be the track Blurred Vision. It's something that comes in with these keys that I did not expect. It's like something out of like inspirational pop rock from the 2000s, and it oddly works for Newfound Glory. It does give an inspirational feel to it, and it's something that's a little bit happier and more optimistic in the lyrical department, and you cannot go wrong with those shimmering synths. And it's something that they start off the song, they work in a different guitar tone, something that feels a little bit more vintage to me, and they bring back the synth throughout the track, especially at the end. It really is just the cherry on top. I love that. Call Me Antisocial is another favorite of mine as well. It really stands out in this track listing. It is kind of a cynical point of view on things, but I can obviously see myself lining up because I feel like a cynic so much of the time. In fact, many would describe me as a cynic because, oh, you don't like anything. You don't like these songs. You always have something to say. Well, first of all, I'm a music critic, but second of all, maybe perhaps I can give it to you a little bit. Maybe on some things I do have a bit of a jaded point of view on life, but at the same time, I like to think that others like Newfound Glory and myself aren't just totally naive. You know what's going on, and it's tracks like this that add a little bit of commentary that I can just kind of nod my head and agree with, and especially the music, it's a treat as well. I respect Newfound Glory for not just staying in their lane on Makes Me Sick. They tried to mix it up a little bit, and for the most part, it does work. It's kind of a mixed result, but I would say it pays off more often than not. For me personally, I don't think it's going to have a high replay factor, but there's a few songs I'm definitely going to cherry pick off, add to playlist, and I will put my least favorites and favorites in the description down below, along with a link to the album so you guys can stream it. For me personally, I'm going to have to go with a light 3.5 out of 5. Let me know your thoughts on Makes Me Sick in the comment section down below. Leave a like on the video and subscribe to the channel because friends don't let friends go unsubscribed. If you're able to, help me out on Patreon. It's that annotation over in the corner, or else the top link in the description down below. Click here for my Resurrection review or another recent review that I did by clicking right here. Social media in the description. Other than that, I'll see you very soon right here on ARTV.